Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
Well, he was...
As you saw from the intro, the media, Margaret is the best meme that was ever created, right? That conversation you saw was, I forgot her name, Margaret she struggles to relate J.D. Vance's speech about free speech to Nazi Germany. When everything that Nazi stands for, like Nazi stands for National Socialist. National Socialist. They forget the socialist part. Socialism is based in authoritarianism. It's based on one-party rule. Something that the Democrats are trying to do with illegals porting into the country. But, that's a different conversation. And she's trying to equate that, the fact that, oh, my God, free speech caused the genocide. No. Censorship caused a genocide. Content moderation causes a censorship. Because at the end of the day, no one knows a genocide is going on if the news corporations don't report on it, correct? Just like Joe Biden's laptop, right? They conspire with each other in the shadows to downplay the story, call it Russian disinformation. But here they are complaining about how much free speech is a threat to democracy and it must be moderated. Any criticism against the Democrats, or somehow it's not as bad. It's painted in a good light. That's how it was in Nazi Germany. And people are starting to get tired of this crap. That the news organizations, right, and more that you hear them talk is the more and more they expose themselves, right? The AP fighting with Donald Trump about naming the Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, even though Donald Trump went through the lawful process in which that America has the jurisdiction to name that place, but the AP don't want to inform you correctly what's going on. And this is the biggest issue with these news organizations. And Margaret's a perfect example of this. Trying to pick a fight with Trump, trying to pick a fight with his administration on something almost seemed petty-like. I digress. Let me give you a clip illustrating what exactly am I talking about. Let's take a look.
Why do you think the AP won't just call it the Gulf of America? I mean, the president does rename things. We rename what's the mountain, Denali,
okay.
Mount McKinley.
Let me read their explanation for why they are not doing it. Essentially, they are saying that Mexico, the Trump's order only carries authority within the United States. Mexico, as well as other countries and international bodies, do not have to recognize that name change. The Gulf of Mexico has carried that name for 400 years. As was said at the table, and the Associated Press is going to refer to it by its original name, while acknowledging that Trump has a new name that he would like to call it. They are an international organization. No one except Trump with a pen has said that it's the Gulf of America. It's a body of water that also has borders with another country, and it's been named that for 400 years.
I know, but we have a lawful process in this country for changing the name of it. The president went through it with the Secretary of the Interior, by the way. I mean, it feels a little different.
Can I just answer your Denali question? The Denali thing is actually different because that's a place that's in the United States proper. It exists in.
But we changed the name of it. The point is, we changed the name of it.
We have the ability to change the name. It's Mount McKinley. It's Mount McKinley.
But we also have the ability to change this body of water. I think, look, this smacks to me of a news organization looking for a way to pick a fight with Donald Trump over something that they don't need to pick a fight over.
Exactly.
B, he is the president, and there is a lawful process that he did follow to do it.
The news organization
why
did
won't
not
they just
pick a fight with Donald Trump over this. Donald Trump picked a fight with the news organization.
No, they're not calling it by the name.
No, the news organization can do whatever they want. If they want to call it the Gulf of South America, they can call it
that.
But
why would I respect a news organization that doesn't deal in reality?
But
you don't have
to.
if to not call it what it is.
They can call it whatever they want because there's free speech in this country. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, but that, in my opinion, if you're not willing to call something by the proper name based on the laws of the United States, that calls into question your judgment. And are you a news organization?
By the way,
or are you
there are no laws in play here. It's an executive order, and the body of water is not named by the United States. It's named by global organizations that name global landmarks. It's not their law.
So you don't respect Donald Trump's executive order or the Secretary of the Interior's process on this either.
Donald Trump had an executive order, but the Associated Press is not bound by it.
Scott, what if the Biden administration?
You saw that in my second video of the day. I pointed out exactly why I think that the Republicans may never lose in a couple of years from now. At least 10 years, I see that the Republicans got a good chance to politically dominate for the next 10 years if they don't F this up. They got a great opportunity right now. Democrats are in, I don't know where they are. They're lost in the woods somewhere because they can't seem to hit a message that is consistent to what the American people actually want. And I've been talking about it all the time. Democrats are the party of America last, themselves first, at the expense of the American people. The Democratic Party as a brand, in my view, they're like a self-centered narcissist that I think everyone should do everything in their best interest and everyone shouldn't do nothing against their own. It makes illogical sense. And it's because the Democrats, like a typical narcissist, gaslight you, try to emotionally manipulate you, emotionally bully you into doing things that serves no purpose of the American people. Who wants increasing taxes on Americans? Who wants Americans to pay $150 billion at their expense for illegals to come in and give them amnesty, give them citizenship, so that way they can vote for the Democratic Party and essentially instill a one-party rule across the country? What American want that? Not a rational thinking one. That I'll tell you. In the latest chapter in We May Never Lose Again, a book about how the American left collectively lost its damn mind and aggressively promotes the dumbest possible voices. And this is a thing I'm starting to think about because long ago on this channel, I made a video where I said, hey, the Democrats do not value critical thinkers because critical thinkers will challenge their dogma, and they are the party of purity test. And this conversation between her and Rubio kind of encapsulate that. But let's get into the video.
Where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country.
And this is one of the reasons that, I fear what some of the tactics that Democrats are doing. I fear seeing these stories about, Elon Musk coming out and you see all this fraudulent spending, all this damn near money laundering scheme that the government essentially has become for the left. And the fact that leftists don't want, the fact that this stuff I came to conclusions with is the Tim Pool versus Luke Beasley stuff. I got a lot of leftists in there bashing me, telling me, insulting me, calling me an idiot, all this stuff. I don't know anything. And I just pushed through because I'm like, you're just noise. You're just noise. You're not hearing my concerns. You're not even acknowledging my concerns. You're just calling me names. It means you don't have an argument. And they'll argue you tooth and nail in the comment section, all to tell you that, because the government says so. Fallacy of authority. Just because people in power or are telling you something doesn't necessarily make it true. And the fact that their whole narrative of January 6th falls upon the government, who is known to corrupt, right? Look at this current state of the government. No one trusts the government anymore. Fraudulent spending. You spent $380 million on illegals at the expense of the American people. You want me to trust an institution like that about January 6th? Are you crazy? American leftists. And this is what the left don't seem to understand, that they can't bully people anymore. And Thomas Sowell, this is why I listen to Thomas Sowell a lot. A lot of the words of wisdom that Thomas Sowell has put in his book, I can remember one is that when we look back in in the 2020 years, between 2020 and 2024, we're gonna reflect on the fact that how did America let these group of I'm gonna be nice. These group of people with limited opinions, limited information, all they have is emotional appeal, emotional gaslighting. How we let ourselves get gaslighted into voting them into power. I think that's the perspective 8 years, 10 years from now when we look back at this timeline. But I digress. Let's continue.
So that's not an accurate reflection of history. I also think it's wrong. Again, I go back to the point of his speech. Okay, the point of his speech was basically that there is an erosion in free speech and intolerance for opposing points of view within Europe, and that's of concern because that is eroding. That's not an erosion of your military capabilities. That's not an erosion of your economic standing. That's an erosion of the actual values that bind us together in this transatlantic union that everybody talks about. And I think allies and friends and partners that have worked together now for 80 years should be able to speak frankly to one another in open forums without being offended, insulted, or upset. And I spoke to foreign ministers from multiple countries throughout Europe. Many of them probably didn't like the speech or didn't agree with it, but they were continuing to engage with us on all sorts of issues that unite us. So again, at the end of the day, I think that people give that is a forum in which you're supposed to be inviting people to give speeches, not basically a chorus where everyone is saying the exact same thing. That's not always going to be the case when it's a collection of democracies where leaders have the right and the privilege to speak their minds in forums such as these.
Exactly. And just destroy her whole narrative. And this is the point that Democrats, leftists, this is how they operate. They expect America to just parrot approved talking points, approved lines. That's propaganda. That's censorship. That's content moderation. That's what it is that you want to filter information that doesn't bode well with a perspective or an agenda or a worldview that you want propagated in reality. And this is the problem that many people have with the American left is that they do not allow people to disagree with them. They don't allow criticism in their own party. All you have to do is look at the DNC. Right? I got a perfect, this is a good segue for the DNC. I had a video that I wanted to talk specifically about DNC, but like for instance, David Hogg is already under fire from fellow Democrats for using DC contracts to fundraise for his own personal his own personal PAC. Already corruption. It's a stunning lack of judgment that is concerning to many people. How he got in there. All he did was set all the approved purity tests, all the approved talking points, right? Like a chorus. He sang the notes. He sang the Democratic notes. And this is why the Democratic Party is not changing for the better. This is why it's staying the same. If you want something better, you can't stay the same. And the Democrats are trying to fight tooth and nail to stay the same. They want people to tell them what feels good. And sometimes what feels good isn't the right choice to do. To struggle is pain. To grow is through discomfort. And I know for the Democrats, it's uncomfortable to criticize each other, but that's how you get better. Because at the end of the day, if you don't get no feedback about what you got right or what you got wrong, how you know you're moving in the right direction. And this is where the Democratic Party is hitting an obstacle that they don't want to confront. Is that they don't want to admit and reflect that they got it wrong, that their messaging isn't appealing, that they're the ones that need to change, not the voters. And until they understand this message, they'll continue to lose. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be happy to read some of your comments as I know I'm just coming back. So I'm trying to get myself back into my flow. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Share the video if you feel so inclined as well. See you on the next one. Peace.